Today, I'm going to tell you a painful and terrifying story of a robbery. A cash van, along with two guards, headed toward the deserted desert of Arizona. But neither did the van ever return, nor did the two guards. At first, the FBI and police thought this was a case of robbery and theft, but as their investigation progressed, the revelations that came to light made them realize that this case was far more horrifying and dangerous than just a robbery. The families of the two guards and the bank whose cash was in the van were extremely scared and worried, because even after so much investigation, the two guards were still missing. It seemed as if the desert had swallowed them. But when the FBI finally found out what had happened to the two guards, they were completely shaken. Throughout the investigation, the police and FBI were haunted by just two questions. First, did the two guards run away with all the cash? Second, did someone loot the van and take the guards? And later, when they got the answers to these questions, they were left shocked. So what actually happened with those guards and the cash-filled van? Did the guards really rob the van themselves, or was someone else behind it all? And what were the shocking revelations that came before the police? This story is astonishing and thrilling in every way. The story begins in the city of Phoenix, Arizona, on the morning of May 24, 1977. Like every day, two security guards were preparing for their job. One of them was named Cecil Newkirk, and the other was Russell Dempsey. They had been working for the same bank for the past 20 years, transporting cash-filled vans from one bank to another. On that day, too, the two guards were to deliver nearly $330,000, 0 cents, in cash and coins to various banks in northern Arizona. They had just started driving the van when the lock on the back door started malfunctioning and kept opening again and again. Because of this, they had to take the van to a maintenance workshop. While getting the lock repaired, they got delayed by almost an hour from their schedule, which used to happen occasionally, so no one at the banks found it suspicious. Anyway, after about an hour, they resumed their route. The journey from Phoenix to Flagstaff was nearly 250 kilometers. Around 10:30 in the morning, a bank called the security company's dispatcher and asked why the cash van hadn't arrived yet. They were still waiting. The dispatcher replied that the van was delayed due to a lock issue, but would soon arrive, so there was nothing to worry about. The bank manager relaxed after this call. But when another 3 hours passed and the van still didn't show up, the bank manager started trying to contact the guards through the van's radio walkie-talkie. But there was no response. Since the van carried money for several banks, all the banks began trying to contact the guards on the walkie-talkie, but none of them could reach them. Everyone was worried about what had happened to the van and the guards. 4 more hours passed, but still, the van didn't arrive, nor did the guards. Around 4:30 p.m., the banks and the security company contacted the FBI. The FBI immediately issued an alert to local and state police. As evening fell, the FBI and local police began searching around the desert area where the van was supposed to pass through, a huge desert in northwest Arizona. Even after hours of searching, the FBI and police found neither the van nor the guards. No clues were found that could lead them to the missing van. The FBI was still haunted by two questions. Were guards Cecil and Russell behind the van's disappearance, or had someone robbed the van and taken the guards in the deserted desert? With every passing hour, more questions began to surface, each leading deeper into the northwest Arizona desert. But as time went on and evidence started coming forward, it became clear this wasn't just a missing van case, but a dangerous and well-planned robbery. By now, it was dark, and since neither the van nor the guards had been found, the FBI decided to start treating the case as a robbery and launched an official investigation. They began by questioning the security company about the two guards. The investigation revealed that Cecil and Russell had been working at the company for 20 years and were known to be honest and hardworking. The FBI then interviewed both of the guards' wives separately, hoping to find some lead. From the questioning, they learned that neither guard had any financial problems or any reason to commit such a huge crime. After these interviews, The FBI was convinced that both guards were loyal to their job and the company. So, they decided to expand the scope of their investigation. The route the van was supposed to take covered about 250 kilometers of mostly deserted land. It was rough, deserted terrain, and the FBI was deeply concerned. If the guards had truly been robbed and taken captive, finding them in such a massive area would be like finding a needle in a haystack. By the next morning, the Arizona Department of Public Safety deployed helicopters to search the route, trying to spot the van or the guards. These helicopters scanned every entry, exit, and detail of the route. Soon, about 75 km away from the highway near a small town called Bumblebee, they spotted the van parked off a remote road, about 1 kilometer away from the main highway. When police officers reached the van, their eyes widened in shock. They immediately informed the FBI, who arrived on the scene. As soon as FBI officers reached the van, they saw that the van's door was locked from the outside, and both guards were missing. There were footprints around the van suggesting something had happened recently, but no signs of struggle or violence were visible. Somehow, the police managed to break open the lock. What they saw inside stunned them. There were bloodstains on the floor and other areas of the van. There were also bags full of coins still lying in the back of the van, indicating that someone was seriously injured. The guards' shotguns were still in the van, unused, and the walkie-talkie was still on, but no distress calls had been made. Interestingly, the bags full of coins worth thousands of dollars were untouched, but $293,000, 0 cents worth of paper bills were missing. While investigating, the FBI looked again at the footprints around the van. They also noticed tire tracks of another vehicle nearby, suggesting that another vehicle had left the crime scene. The FBI called the forensic department to create plaster molds of the tire tracks and to document every small detail of the crime scene. All this pointed to one thing: the entire robbery was very well planned, and whoever had done it knew exactly what they were doing. News of the van and guards' disappearance and the robbery was now all over Arizona newspapers. The case shocked the public. It was headlined, "Deadly Heist," accusing the two guards and labeling them as traitors. Now, every TV channel was showing clues and evidence from the robbery. People in Arizona started forming their own theories about what could have happened, and in the eyes of the public, the two guards were now criminals. Mistakes had been made, and with the news of this case being shown repeatedly on TV channels, pressure on the FBI to solve it as soon as possible was increasing. Due to this news, the families of both guards had to face many kinds of troubles, and because of that, people as well as the police were keeping a close eye on them, and everyone had started looking at them with great disdain. Nevertheless, moving forward with the investigation, the FBI decides that they will ask the public for help through the media, and they say that if anyone has seen this van or the guards near the Arizona highway, they should come forward and help. The day after this statement is broadcast in the media, the FBI starts receiving calls in which many motorcycle riders tell the FBI that they had seen the van standing on the north side of the highway on the same day it went missing. Some people also said that they had seen a man in a police uniform walking toward the van, while others said they saw a police car parked near the van. Each person was giving a different theory, a different statement, and describing a different look of the car. Some people said that the police car was parked in front of the van, while others claimed it was behind the van. Many witnesses stated that the officer was wearing a hat, while others claimed he wasn't wearing any hat. This completely confused the FBI, and they couldn't draw a clear picture of the crime. Nevertheless, the FBI contacted the head of the police department to try to find out which officer had stopped the cash van on the highway. They learned that none of the police department's officers had stopped the van that day. This made it clear that the person seen in uniform near the van was not a police officer, but rather an imposter dressed as one. He must have told the guards that he was a cop. However, this was still just a theory, and nothing had been proven yet. Now the FBI, along with a special officer from the police department, Deputy Delland, began thoroughly searching the area near the van. Since Deputy Delland was a trained tracker agent, He started inspecting the area in great detail, and what he found was strange and shocking. In the investigation, he found several footprints leading to and from the van, and also found tire marks near the back of the van. These footprints and tire tracks were telling a story. From these footprints, Deland began to feel that there were 2 or more people involved in this robbery. He also started forming a theory that these people had come from the front, stopped the cash van, took the cash out, put it in their own car, and escaped. According to Deputy Dell, this car must have been following the cash van for a long time. By looking at the tire marks, it seemed like some heavy external goods were loaded in it. But one thing kept bothering him, again and again. Where had both the guards disappeared? The FBI and local police together searched every corner of Arizona's desert, hoping to find any clue about Cecil and Russell, but they found nothing, because near the cash van, the FBI found only bloodstains and no strong clue that could lead them anywhere. This clearly showed that whoever had executed the robbery was very careful and left no evidence behind. On the other hand, due to the conflicting witness statements, the investigation slowed down significantly, and the FBI came to a dead end. They started feeling that Cecil and Russell might never be found alive again. It had almost been a month since the robbery, and then on June 16, 1977, something happened that completely turned the direction of the entire investigation. On the afternoon of June 16, 2 fishermen were sitting in their boat fishing in a pond when suddenly they noticed a body floating on the water. Seeing this, they immediately contacted the police, and the police informed the FBI, who then arrived at the pond to investigate. As soon as they saw the face of the body, their world turned upside down, because this was none other than one of the 2 guards, Russell. His head and torso were separated and stuffed into a canvas bag, and his wallet was still in his pocket. Inside it was an identity card that confirmed this was indeed Russell. After Russell's body was found, the investigation, which had been focused on theft and robbery, now turned into a murder investigation. The local police and FBI began combing every inch of the pond, hoping to find any evidence. During this search, they found 2 wooden sticks tied with rope, which made the FBI believe that Russell had been strangled. The forensic doctor also confirmed this, that due to strangulation, there was a lack of oxygen in Russell's blood, which caused a heart attack, and he died. The FBI continued to search the entire pond with the help of divers, and just a few days later, they achieved another success. A few days after Russell's body was found, they also found the body of Cecil, the other guard. Looking at Cecil's body, it appeared that he had been badly beaten, and there were holes in his chest caused by burns, which clearly indicated that before he died, he was tortured with a high-voltage taser gun. Apart from Cecil's body, they also found more things pointing toward this case. Among these was another canvas bag similar to the one found with Russell's body. This canvas bag had been tied to a stone and thrown to the bottom of the pond. When it was taken out and opened, it contained 2 revolvers and a rusted Arizona license plate that closely resembled an official Arizona police license plate. From the taser marks, canvas bags, and license plate found during the investigation, it was now clear that this was a well-planned robbery and murder, executed very brutally. The FBI now understood that whoever carried out this heist clearly intended to kill both guards after stealing the money. It was a dangerous robbery in which 2 people had lost their lives. As the investigation moved forward, the FBI started looking into the people and motives of those who might have wanted to execute such a crime. And during this time, one name came forward: Michael Poland. Michael's name had come up in FBI records before, when a tow truck driver had told the FBI one day after the robbery that 2 men had called him to tow a car from near a pond. These 2 men had told the truck driver that they had drunk too much while fishing, and in their drunken state, their car got half submerged in the water. That's why they called the tow truck to pull it out. But during the process of pulling the car out of the water, the truck driver noticed something that seemed very odd. He saw that the back seat of the car was torn and had scratch marks, which made it look like some very heavy object had been placed there and then dragged out. The truck driver also said that after the car was pulled out, the name on the receipt signed was Michael Poland. And as soon as this was heard, the police and FBI quietly and silently began investigating Michael Poland to find some evidence against him. The first piece of evidence the police found during this investigation was that on the same day the robbery happened, Mike had rented a boat, and he had taken that boat to the same pond where the bodies of both guards were found. Upon discovering this, the FBI started to believe that Mike Poland must have had some connection with this robbery and murder. They immediately issued orders to keep a watch on Mike Poland and his younger brother, Patrick Poland. Orders to monitor Patrick were also issued because the FBI had believed from the beginning that more than one person was involved in this robbery, a theory which later turned out to be true. Meanwhile, during surveillance of the two brothers, the police noticed that both of them had suddenly become very rich. While Michael bought a motorcycle for himself, Patrick bought a new car. Based on their earnings and lifestyle, they were spending far beyond their means. This raised even more suspicion in the eyes of the FBI. The police began documenting every transaction and purchase the brothers made. A pattern began to emerge from this documentation, and it became clear that all these expensive purchases started right after the robbery. The Poland brothers were known for their calm demeanor and low profile, but after this incident, their close ones noticed a new kind of confidence in them. They had started spending money on luxurious and expensive things. For the FBI, this was enough to understand that both Poland brothers were involved in the robbery. Meanwhile, the brothers believed they had successfully tricked the police and FBI, but this turned out to be their misconception. Around the same time, the FBI obtained both brothers' bank statements. From those, it became clear that before the robbery, their financial condition was very poor, and they were deeply in debt. But right after the robbery, all their loans were paid off, and their lifestyle completely changed. Every fact and every piece of evidence pointed toward the two brothers being suspects, but the FBI needed solid proof to arrest them. So on the morning of July 27, 1977, the FBI arrived at the Poland brothers' homes with a court-issued search warrant to search their houses. At Mike's house, the FBI found $1,000, 0 cents in cash, and some receipts for strange purchases. The most prominent among them was a high-voltage taser gun, and the marks on that taser matched the marks found on Cecil's body. At Patrick's house, police also found cash and weapons, along with the receipt for the canvas bags that were found in the pond. The police officers took these bags and bills to the store from where the bags were bought. The shop owner immediately recognized the bags and told the police that he had sold them to someone named Mark Harris. At first, the FBI was surprised to hear a different name, but then they realized that Mike must have used a fake name to purchase the bags. After gathering such solid evidence against them, the FBI arrested both Mike and Patrick. In the initial interrogation, both brothers remained silent and kept saying they had no involvement in the robbery. But when the police presented all the evidence and applied pressure, both brothers broke down and confessed to the crime. Following this confession, the FBI charged them with robbery, kidnapping, and murder and handed them over to police custody. Once in custody, the police and lawyers began building a strong case against them. Since they had so much evidence, they could prove in court that the brothers were indeed the ones who committed the robbery, which later turned into a murder. Finally, 2 years after the robbery, in February 1989, both brothers were charged with federal offenses of robbery and kidnapping. The same precision with which the brothers committed the crime was matched by the prosecutor's precision in presenting the case in court. The lawyer detailed every aspect: how the brothers followed Cashman, how they stopped the van by posing as fake police officers, and how they not only committed the robbery, but also killed the two guards inside the van. The lawyer also told the court that Mike and Patrick had killed the two witnesses related to the case: the truck driver who had named Mike and the forensic doctor who identified the taser gun marks. The case was presented as a story of two men so blinded by greed that they were ready to go to any extent and erase any evidence to protect themselves. Eventually, the court found both brothers guilty on all charges and sentenced them to 100 years in prison. But the story didn't end there. In November 1989, the state of Arizona filed more murder charges against the Poland brothers. With solid evidence, the court this time sentenced them to death. The families of the two guards were relieved and finally breathed a sigh of relief. But their happiness didn't last long. In 1980, the brothers appealed against their death sentence. The Arizona court ruled that all the evidence was circumstantial and overturned their death sentence. The court also stated that both brothers could be released on parole after serving just 5 years, meaning they could go free despite committing such a heinous crime. But then, U.S. Attorney Melvin McDonald took a step that changed everything. Melvin McDonald, Deputy State Prosecutor of Arizona, was responsible for examining the evidence against criminals and ensuring that prisoners received punishment according to their crimes. McDonald once again worked to ensure that both Poland brothers were sentenced to death, again. He reopened the 5-year-old case, meticulously re-examined every piece of evidence, and called all witnesses back to court. On re-examining everything, a new angle emerged. A wristwatch had stopped working at the exact time the victim was thrown into the pond. Coincidentally, this was also the time the brothers were seen towing their car away from the pond, clearly indicating that they were behind disposing of the body. After discovering this crucial piece of evidence, a 3-hour-long argument took place in court between the Poland brothers' lawyer and Melvin McDonald. Finally, the judge once again declared both brothers guilty of murder and sentenced them to death once more. After this second death penalty, the brothers repeatedly appealed in court, but each time their appeals were rejected. 20 years after the sentencing, in June 1999, Michael Poland was executed by lethal injection. 9 months after Mike's death, in March 2000, Patrick Poland was hanged. Thus ended the long and painful wait for the families of the two guards. This case revealed many aspects of the criminal justice system, showing how even the smallest pieces of forensic evidence can play a crucial role in solving a case. The case will forever be remembered in FBI history as one in which the FBI and police gave their all to solve it. Although this complex case caused much distress to the forensic department, FBI, and law enforcement, with many different witnesses giving conflicting testimonies, and though at times they felt they might never solve it, they did not give up and ultimately delivered justice to the guards' families. This was the story of two brothers who could have done so much to improve their lives, but instead chose a path that led many families to lose their loved ones, and ultimately led to their own destruction. Though it has been more than 40 years since this robbery took place, the terrible memories of that cursed morning still live on in the minds of the guards' families, and they will never forget it.